Hi, welcome back. I'm Chief Rex Troche, and you're listening to Chat with the Chief, a podcast. All right, in this episode, we are diving into what some at the department call the backbone of the agency, which is the Patrol Division. And today we're joined by Captain Rob Armstrong, who oversees the Patrol Division. Thanks for being with us, Rob.
Thank you, Chief.
Let's talk about the Patrol Division. So just give us an overview of the Sarasota Police Department Patrol Division.
The Patrol Division is the largest of four. Right now I have 118 officers assigned to patrol and one civilian, which is the administrative assistant. But 115 officers, I've got 4 shifts. We obviously work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We never go home. We're always there. There's always officers on the street. There are 4 shifts, and they're broken up as an A and a B. So those A and B shifts also have a day and a night. So there are 4 shifts. There's a shift always working. Also within patrol, we have specialty units. So we have the community action team, which has 2 sergeants and 8 officers. We have a K-9 unit. We have honor guard. We have a traffic unit, a marine unit, and we also have a homeless outreach team. So all of those units, the specialty included, are fall underneath of the Patrol Division.
Kind of break down a regular night, for instance, on patrol. Who's on patrol? Who's essentially the chief of police at night? Explain that to us.
So the chief of police at night is going to be the shift commander, the lieutenant. It's a great job, a job I really liked having. That person is going to have a direct line to me always. So in this business, we're really never off because we always have to have our phones with us. And if something happens, if it's a critical matter, the shift commander has to call me, and then I call the deputy chief, and the deputy chief calls you. So we triage those phone calls all the time to see how far they need to go and when they can stop. Depends on how important they are and who needs to know. But again, we're just never really off, and I always have to be available for that shift commander to call me. I can be home, but that phone does ring a lot. It's been good this year. We've been lucky. I don't get as many phone calls as I used to, which is probably a good thing.
Knock on wood.
You're right, that we're not having as many critical matters that happen, in the middle of the night. It does seem that in the middle of the night is when, we get those phone calls. There are 3 sergeants that are on duty as well. We're averaging approximately 15 officers per shift. Even though there may be 18 assigned, there's going to be officers that are off for training and things like that. But there's usually around 15 officers on the patrol shift that's on duty.
Okay. And the city's broken into how many zones?
So the city has 10 zones, and we're broken down into north, central, and south districts. So the city's kind of divided in that way for our officers who are assigned to each district, and there's a supervisor or a sergeant over each district, and then the shift commander is over the entire shift. If they're 2B, then they're a night shift on the B side rotation. So like I mentioned earlier, we have the A and the B. So then there's going to be 4 shift commanders, 1 for each shift.
And with respect to community policing, how do we break that up? What do we do with respect to the officers to ensure that we have community policing as far as placement?
Well, right now we have the community action team, which is fantastic. And really, we call them the firemen of the department. They're doing a lot of things, not only operationally, but we want them out in the public, high visibility, on bicycles, getting out of their cars, interacting with the community, being visible, being approachable. Those officers were hand-selected. We started this several years ago, and it's been really, really good. They're very busy. They're getting pulled in a million different directions, so it's a unit where we do want those officers that are special, that want to, just be involved in a little bit of everything, because they're going to be doing different operations. One day they're, helping us with a public affairs event at the station where we're handing out food. The next day they're getting called out for a search warrant and they're helping a unit. Or we have an operation where we're trying to make arrests if there's been violent crime. They're going to be doing that too. So they go from handing out teddy bears to Halloween night where they're handing out candy to being involved in an operation where we're trying to catch criminals that are involved in legal activity. So they do a little bit of everything, which is really great, and we need those right people in that job, people that can do just a little bit of anything, and when they're called, they're available.
And how has that impacted the community? I know that every officer here is a community police officer. We put the same officers in the same zones. so that they get to know their community. We don't switch them around unless we have to due to staffing. But with CAT specifically, how has that really ingratiated ourselves with the community? What have you seen change?
What I've seen is that we're sort of known and identified, and the community understands what we're doing. I think just this podcast alone gets information out. We're very transparent, so really everything we're doing, we're sharing with the community. We really share everything we do, even if it's operations. We have a community response team that there's members of the community that I'm in contact with every day. We actually have a group message, and anytime there's an incident, even if it's not critical, I'm always letting them know what we're involved in. They're involved in some of the briefings that we're having, so we're actually involving the community up front, so they're very aware of what we're doing before we even do that, especially if it's operational based. If we're actually going to go out and do a proactive operation, we're a lot different than we used to be. I can tell you that our operations have completely changed. So now we're transparent up front. We're involving the community in the beginning. We bring them in, we do PowerPoints, we go over how we're going to attack a problem. We get the feedback from them and the buy-in, and so they understand that we're really not just going out here and stopping everybody. Our plan would not be to stop every single car that goes down the road. Our plan would be to target specific people involved in specific criminal activity, and that's how we're attacking our current problems, especially when it's operational based.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. I think some of the feedback that I've gotten from the community response team, and I'm going to let you delve into how we came along, the people that joined that, but the greatest compliment that I've received is we just wanted a seat at the table. And now we have a seat at a table, we have voice, and we have input with respect to how operations are conducted. And I think that has been really the greatest compliment with respect to transparency. But tell us, how do we come along choosing people for the community response team?
Well, we had a group years ago called the Focus Group. And it was a great group, but it was just small. And there were only a couple people involved in the group, and it wasn't as structured. So I think, what we decided was that we were going to have those folks that were, especially in the Newtown community, they wanted to be involved, they wanted to have a voice. We brought them in, we talked to them about really structuring the group and having way more communication, more of like a daily thing, instead of, we always had the focus group where if we had a critical matter, especially in Newtown, we would call and say, hey, can you help us out? Can you come? So it was a little bit loose, but now it's very structured, and I'm in constant communication with them by phone. I have a group message on my phone. I'm letting them know everything that we're doing. And if we're going to do something operationally based, we bring them in, let them have that voice, let them be involved, and we really do take their feedback and what they're telling us, and it's very important. We really want the community to really in some way police themselves, but we're going to go out and arrest people and do the things that we do, but we love getting that feedback of how they want us to, effectively police their community in a safe way, and it's been really, really good. And sometimes it's good when you have people come to the table that have a different idea than you. You may think you know everything or you have the best ideas, and someone that you wouldn't expect comes up with something really, really good, and you realize that we need to, change gears. And Chief, you always say that we pivot, and we do that. And I think that's great. We're not afraid to pivot and kind of change our direction based on the data, or however we're, whatever we're doing. If it's an operation and we needed to pivot the way we're doing it, I think it's great to have them involved.
Yeah, I think we no longer assume what the community wants. Having that input directly there, no filter, and then be able to bounce off the ideas off each other has really played well for us. Another thing that I've noticed too is when we do have those critical incidents and the community response team shows up, we're able to brief them in the command center, and then they're able to then go out into the crowd, kind of talk and alleviate any issues, any consternation, and we're able to get some information as well with some anonymity. Whereas sometimes somebody wouldn't tell a police officer, but they would tell someone they trust more so in the community, someone who's an elder or a heavy hitter, really someone they've known since they were a little kid. And that's what we're fortunate to have right now. And we're starting to grow that with some younger community response team members too, right?
We are, yes. Most of the ones that are on there, are a little older.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, the heavy hitters. But we have two that are young, and I can say they probably respond the fastest and text the most, and they're really involved. But it's good to have that variation of the age and the mindset. But really, it's been a great thing. And I think the biggest part for me is the relationships, because now I have direct relationships with them. They call me if they need something, or I actually got a call yesterday from a member that needed help with someone that was the victim of a crime. So we got someone out right away. So it's really good for those relationships. And when they show up, I think we've built some tremendous trust. And if there were walls or barriers, I don't think they're there. I think that they're down, and we're, working every day and partnering together, and the communication's key. And it's an everyday thing, and I'm open to it, and, constantly letting them know what's going on, which is great.
Yeah. And then just remind me, how many phones do you carry?
I carry two.
Two phones.
Always.
Right. I don't think most people carry two phones. I carry one phone primarily. It's just all about work. So, but when you're juggling two phones and that phone's never stops ringing, and you get calls on your off day, right?
Of course.
For
Yeah,
yours
absolutely.
truly, right?
Yes. The phones are a thing, and it's part of the business, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it can get super busy. I know that traffic is always big here in the city, and people are always concerned about it.
I think we have a really busy traffic unit, and again, I think what people don't know is that our traffic unit, even though it's small, those folks within that unit are traffic homicide investigators.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just out writing tickets. They're doing high visibility enforcement. They're doing pedestrian and bicycle safety, click it or ticket campaigns. They're doing all kinds of different things. And then unfortunately, if we have a call out, which would be a serious injury crash or a fatality, the entire unit is attached to that. And unfortunately, they sort of seem to come in groups where we have not one for a while, and then we'll have 1, 2, or 3 back to back, unfortunately. But they stay very, very busy on those because they're really homicide cases that occurred on the roadway. I think folks would want, to see our traffic officers out on the street every day and wonder where they're at. Well, they may very well be in a trial on a traffic homicide investigation case.
All right. And kind of to add to that, they, as you said, they're traffic homicide investigators, but an investigation can pull them from the street for 7 days, 14 days, an entire month, because sometimes they have to travel, right?
Absolutely. They will travel on follow-ups. The ones we've had recently, we've flown them all over the U.S. following up on leads. These can take up to 90 days. So they're very busy. They do a great job. It's just like if we were working an actual homicide where somebody was murdered. It's the same thing. We have someone who's unfortunately died in a crash, and we need to find out if someone should be held accountable for that. And that requires a lot of follow-up, and they do a great job. So essentially, they're the detectives for the crashes. And they've been to extensive training.
So it's never a dull moment, because I think we just had an alarm pulled.
We did.
So let's hold it right there for a second. Let's see what this is. Let's talk about what just happened.
So what just happened was we have a brand new officer in the community action team, and I will not say his or her name.
Yeah, nameless.
But they were doing some training with the interview rooms, and in the interview rooms there is a red alarm button, and when the officer was being shown that alarm button, decided to go ahead and push that alarm. So we were under attack by a bunch of officers responding to us, thinking that there was an emergency in the interview rooms. So now we're back.
Yeah, and for those that don't follow us all the time, I know this is new, but we use one of our interview rooms as the podcast room because it's soundproof and it just sounds much better in here. And so it's funny when you step out and there's a bunch of police officers thinking that someone has made entry into the building, and we had to stop that, and then we all got a little bit of a laugh at one of our new people. So it was all in good jest. Hope no one's mad that we're laughing at a new officer, but I think that's how, as police officers, we show love for our members. So that was pretty funny. So back on track. Let's talk about traffic homicide investigators on the traffic unit. As you said earlier, they're all traffic homicide investigators. So what does that entail again?
Well, the traffic homicide investigators, even to be in that unit, it requires a specific amount of training. So, In the first year, we're sending them to very lengthy trainings, and with traffic reconstruction, traffic homicide investigations, they're required to have all of that training. When they respond to the scene, they map the investigation and they're there for hours. So, I think when folks are wanting to know where our traffic unit is, if we've had a recent traffic homicide investigation, they could actually all be here in the building following up on that, just like you would see on the First 48, the TV show where the detectives are doing that. The traffic homicide investigators are doing the exact same thing. So, I think people don't know that, so it's good to share that information.
Yeah, and how many traffic officers do you have?
5.
5. So you have 5 that are overseeing the city, depending on which census you're looking at, is 56 to 58,000 people. And that's their main job. And they don't necessarily answer calls for service like patrol. They're specifically in certain areas that we have data that indicates there's an issue. And that's where we go, and they're there to educate people and to enforce the law. So I think 5 people doing the job that they do, pretty amazing, in my opinion. I'm sure you agree with that. So with hurricane season upon us, let's talk about the role of a patrol officer, and we'll get into it a little bit as far as how we do some business where other agencies may do it differently, but we do it a certain way. So tell us the role of a patrol officer during a hurricane.
Well, they should pretty much know that they need to take care of their family at home first and get everything buttoned up, and they're probably definitely going to be at work. It's very likely that they're going to get stuck here because we need to have folks that are inside the building to respond right when it's clear, when the winds are good and we can go out and safely, take a look at the city. We can't have those folks responding from their house. An example would be the last one. They can't respond from Northport because they're stuck in their homes. So I was in charge of a lot of the staffing for the last hurricane where we, had to cycle everybody in and kind of figure out, how many we bring in, how many we keep, how many we let stay home. We were fortunate the way our plan worked out, and I think we got lucky, but not without a lot of people at the table coming together and figuring it out. But we had a certain shift that was going to come in on like the 3rd day. So we left them home, which was perfect because they came in after the hurricane. And then we had folks here in the building on the front side of the hurricane. And then everybody slept here, stayed here. We have a great facility here, but they know that they're going to be working and we're all here. But we do want them to take care of their family first. The good news is it's not a tornado. So we sort of know that it's coming and we plan as though it's going to hit us. And Sarasota has been really fortunate, but they've been certainly close. And, we get really busy on the response after the hurricane. And even if we don't take a direct hit in our town, we're automatically going to respond to where, the town that's sustained the most damage, we're going to be there anyway. Right. And then we have to take care of our own, where we have families that have been flooded or roof damage, and we have officers with a plethora of issues that, for themselves as well.
Yeah, I think different than some agencies in the area, we tend to house in the PD where other agencies have their officers housed at their residence, and that can be an issue because when roads are closed and whatnot, the officers aren't going to be able to get in, and we know how important it is to ensure that life and property here are protected. And I know sometimes there's some consternation among the officers because we literally wait till the 11th hour to make those decisions, but there's a reason we wait till the 11th hour. It's because that hurricane, look at those spaghetti models, right? We have no idea where that thing's going up until the 11th hour, and even then, that's a guess. So, as you said, I think we got lucky. We brought in 3/4 of the patrol agency. We left a quarter at home. We left our criminal investigation division at home, and it really just worked out for us.
It did.
Yeah,
it did.
We're really lucky. And we do give the officers ample notice as far as prepare to come in and handle business accordingly, thinking you are coming in, because we want to make sure that their families are taken care of as well, and that they have the supplies and the gear that they need. So, hurricane is being where we are on the coast, we take it pretty seriously.
Absolutely, Chief. And to add on that, I think when you're hired at Sarasota PD, there's no surprise that on special events and hurricanes, we're working. So you sort of know, when you get hired, you're probably going to go to night shift. Like there's no hidden secret there. If it's Memorial Day or New Year's Eve, it used to be Easter, like these certain holidays and special events, you kind of know as a Sarasota police officer, 4th of July, like you're going to be very likely working. You'll get those assignments way in advance, and we're on the Gulf Coast. So guess what? When it's hurricane season, there's a very good potential that you're going to be working and potentially stuck at the office for a while. And I think the officers have a really good understanding, and I think we've got great people, great officers, and they just know. So there's really not too many people that are really upset with it because they understand, and there's no surprise.
Right, and a credit to police officers in general and deputies. We're the few professions that during a hurricane we know we're getting called to action. So when people are leaving the state and maybe getting a flight to Vegas for 7 days to be out of state and not even have to deal, we're hunkering down, and we literally know that we're leaving our families in probably one of the most critical incidents there are in Florida. And that is very hard to come to grips, especially in the beginning when you're leaving your wife and little kids to fend literally for themselves and hope that neighbors will help them out. And then communications are down, and then you don't even know if they're okay. So that's one of the first things that we start doing is we start communicating with the other officers' families to make sure, and then getting help as soon as possible. So kudos to the police officers and deputies. Let's go over to a PSA type material right now. Let's go over to unlocked vehicles, which I know is kind of a sore subject. So tell us about that.
Well, the first thing I would say is for the last couple of years, and I've helped our PIO office actually do PSAs on this exact matter multiple times. For whatever reason, sometimes I don't think people are getting the message, and we would really like to say over 90% of our vehicle burglaries in the city limits of Sarasota are unlocked vehicles. I think we've sent out, a lot of information, and we're really saying, please lock your cars. When you get out and you're going somewhere, hide your valuables and lock your car doors. A lot of our auto burglaries are opportunistic folks that are pulling on door handles. And when that door comes open, they're going to rummage through your vehicle. So we really ask to just lock your cars. It would seem easy, but that's a huge number, over 90% of the unlocked cars. So just please lock your cars. Don't be a victim. So please lock up, especially, if you have a car and you're a gun owner, please, we would ask that you do not leave your firearm inside of your vehicle, and definitely don't leave your car unlocked. Because when we have a firearm left in a vehicle to an unlocked car, that's a really easy score for an opportunistic criminal to just pull a door handle and find a firearm. So, now you don't know what's going to happen with that firearm or what other crime is going to be involved with that. So, take some ownership and some responsibility, especially if you're a gun owner, and just lock your cars. I couldn't say it enough, but we have put out so much information, and we're really asking for the public's help to get our numbers down with that.
No, it's a great point. I think the COVID challenge that we have is we just had a lot of people that weren't responsible gun owners that bought guns because everybody else was doing it. They were afraid toilet paper was going to run out, so they bought a firearm, and they're just not responsible, and they're leaving these cars unlocked with firearms, to the point where we just saw in this past, a few weeks ago, we had another 30 firearms turned in during Done with a Gun. And the year before that, it was around 30 as well. So 2 operations yielded 60 firearms off the street. So let's go over to noise. Tell us what's going on with noise and traffic.
So, when I first started here at the police department, there was a Florida statute that allowed a police officer to pull over a vehicle when there was loud music coming from the vehicle. So if the car is going down the road and you could hear this boom, boom, boom really loud, we would conduct traffic stops on those vehicles and write warnings or tickets or whatever. For many, many, many years, that was actually deemed unconstitutional. I think it was about 13 years that we were not allowed to do that. So it is back, and we can stop a car for 25 feet of audible noise. I think one of the issues for the public is that if they call, it has to be witnessed by an officer. So it's not a call for service that we can handle where someone can say, hey, a car went by and it was really, really loud and it's gone. It has to be witnessed by the officer for the traffic stop. I can tell you that our numbers are up. We are conducting those stops. We're being proactive. We've done noise operations in certain areas where there's been a lot of complaints. We're out there. We did an educational campaign up front. We did not go out and just start writing tickets. So now we're at the ticket phase. So we would ask, please know that if your music is loud, you can be pulled over and issued a citation. It's a non-moving violation. But we're very aware of the issue. The statute is back, and we're going to enforce it. And if you have any issues, please call. But just kind of know that it's a non-moving traffic violation that has to be witnessed by an officer for us to take enforcement.
I think that's a frustrating part with some people that live on the bigger thoroughfares, and they call in because maybe 2 cars have driven by in the last 10 or 20 minutes, and then officers show up and there's nothing that we can do at that point. So, we have to follow the law. So while we're on traffic, let's talk about traffic. How's traffic looking in the city?
We're seasonal here, but it certainly has not slowed down. It seems like we're not seasonal anymore. We're sort of getting away from when it's summertime and it's really hot and everybody's gone. I don't see it that way anymore. I see it as it's still very busy. There's the crashes and the calls for service. Everything is really balanced out. We are a seasonal town, but it just doesn't have that same feel from the position that I'm in, where I see as much traffic or as many crashes or as many arrests or calls for service. It seems like folks are not really leaving. So it's a great town, a great city, and I think people stay here year-round, where maybe at some point they weren't. But the traffic is definitely, it's a busy town. It's very, very busy.
Yeah, I know we're always trying to follow the data, because the data allows us to put the resources in the right place based on what's going on. And as you know, your gut is right. We've seen in past years, last year in fact, where we just had this drop like a rock come May, or actually April, and it would drop by like 4,000 calls for service for the month, and now we're flatlined. We're staying up in that 5,500 range, and I think the month of May, when we officially end it, will prove that people are staying here. And you can see it when you try to go out. You can see it when you want to go to the store. You can see it when you want to go out to a restaurant. I've never seen numbers like this. And part of the challenge is every magazine is putting us at top 5, within the top 5 of places to live in the country. And if you build it, they will come. Well, people know we're here now, and we can see it out there. So I just want to say you guys do a great job with the resources that you have. Is there anything else you want to say just with respect to the patrol division?
Well, I think something I would like to say is that I'm really proud of their efforts. I know, Chief, you and I are really busy, and as much as we want to be at every shift briefing or be at every meeting they have or every debrief they have, we just can't be everywhere. So I would say that we're their biggest supporters, and we appreciate their efforts, and they do a great job, and I'm very proud of them. And I know this job, the expectations are really high. We expect these officers to do a really great service, and we expect the best from them, and it's a lot. It's a lot on them to go out every day, and some people don't like the police, some people love the police, and I will say that even today I was at brunch, and some very nice ladies came over and said thank you for your service, and that's really nice. So for those of you in the public, the officers do like that and appreciate that very much. But I would just say, I want them to know that we appreciate their hard work, their efforts, and it does not go unnoticed, and they're doing a fantastic job. And my real takeaway is the professionalism. I think that we are top-notch professional agency. We are giving concierge service to a wonderful community, and I could not be more proud of how they come through, where they've come from, their upbringing, how they go through training here, and they're being molded to do a great job in a great city, and I'm just really proud of what they're doing.
Yeah, and I I got to support you 1,000% on that. I think the public just needs to remember that when patrol officers are called out to a scene, it's never a good scene, right? You're dialing 911 for a reason, and most parties on scene are in a manic state. And so you have patrol officers that are dealing with people that are frantic, upset, angry, and we teach our officers how to de-escalate, but sometimes it's just really hard to de-escalate somebody when they're in those positions, and they do an amazing job because I watch a lot of the body-worn camera video, and it's just super professional. And while I'm on body-worn camera video, I challenge any profession out there to wear a body-worn camera video to work. If you're a lawyer listening to this, wear a body-worn camera to your work and see if you would like everything is just documented and recorded that you say, and then broken down and then critiqued. It's a lot of pressure on the officers. The officers are afraid to make a mistake. So sometimes there's hesitation. And that's what we want to keep the officers from doing, is hesitating. We want officers to do their job, but they know, especially in today's culture and the media, that they're just looking for those videos to put out there, and the officers are concerned. They're concerned that they're going to be critiqued to a degree where they may not be able to be in this profession anymore. So we do understand that stress, and you're right. Our officers are amazing. They are above the bar. And we're very lucky to have that. And we do a lot of training, and we're trying to be innovative and creative with different ways to mitigate that stress, which you and I are always talking about. And it's important to have that communication. So I just want to say thank you for what you're doing, Rob. I mean, you and I came up together. We used to work patrol together, CID together up in there. You're just an awesome person, and you're the right person to be in the patrol division. You have empathy, and you're a great communicator. So thanks for all you're doing, man, and just keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
To everyone listening, thank you. If you would like to do us a favor, in whatever app you are streaming us on, make sure you are following Chat with the Chief so you can be notified when our next episode comes out, and so we can keep this going. Please live, love, work, and play in our city because we love it just as much as you do. Have a great day.